Awesome. Well, okay, so that's a good segue. Let's kind of get into the meat of why we came here today, which is really to talk about, okay, attack vectors widening. Obviously, with WellAware, we are focused on IoT in this IT-OT convergence, IoT solutions for critical environments, critical infrastructure, critical manufacturing. So let's talk about the Zero Trust Framework kind of in that context. First of all, somebody who's never heard of Zero Trust, they don't know what it is, how would you describe the Zero Trust Framework and what we mean by that?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, so NIST had a framework that a lot of people were using, and it was a layered security approach, right? But it had a lot of perimeter in it. It continually evolves as well. But that's what, and a lot of people have been doing perimeter for 20 years, 20 plus years. And somewhere around 2010, one of the Forrester analysts, Forrester's a research firm, Forrester came out with this idea of zero trust. And really it comes down to a phrase, and the way they do it is never trust, always verify. So before, where I had a perimeter and I would verify anybody that tried coming from the outside in, I didn't do that inside out, right? They might log in with a password, but my service providers, they just connect it in. Hey, here's my bandwidth provider, connect in. There's no authentication, there's no security whatsoever, and that can have dramatically bad results. So a huge amount of schools in southern Texas got hit last October, and they were hit through their service provider, right? So that soft underbelly of your connecting to your network was just wide open. So the idea with zero trust is be sure and don't trust anyone, authenticate, make sure, and also verify devices, right? So a good idea of that is I log in at 1 p.m. on a Friday, let's say McKinney, Texas, and then at 15 minutes later I log in again and I'm logging in from China through this device. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So it should pick that up, and it does pick that up, right? So there's lots of different things that happen, and that's why the two big tenets of zero trust are identity and microsegmentation. So being sure that you understand the device is a trusted device, the person that is using that device has been properly authenticated and authorized to go in there and access applications, data, etc. Any service providers, any customers, anybody interacting with our systems inside or outside is going through and being properly authenticated and authorized. And then as part of that, the microsegmentation is I can microsegment by apps. What I mean by that is that only the people that need to use those apps, only the systems and the data and the things that are required for that app, minimum access, right, get access to it. Anybody else doesn't. A lot of times people would go out there and they would have shared systems or things and they wouldn't segment, and you could move east to west. So if you were a hacker and you got in there, and let's say even through social engineering or whatever approach you use,
mm-hmm.
maybe you did a brute force and you cracked a password. You got in and you were basically an authorized user, right? Because you got their credentials. You could then move east to west. So I came in, I was looking, over here at something that didn't have any critical information, didn't have anything I was interested in. I can now move east or west in the organization. So I can go over to the ERP system or the treasury system
mm-hmm.
and steal really important information,
Right.
that might be of value to me. With the microsegmentation, it doesn't allow that. It stops that east-west movement. And I'm trying to put it in simple terms. There's a lot of technology terms, a lot of analogies that are not appropriate for this discussion or this session. So that stopping that east to west, using that microsegmentation, identifying and authenticating people, devices, etc., so they get the proper resources and only the minimum amount of resources they need to do their job.
Yeah,
So
no, it makes a lot of sense.
Wild privilege.
Yeah, and I think to use an example, if I remember correctly, I think a breach that a lot of people are familiar with and remember was in 2013 when Target was breached. A lot of sensitive user information. If I remember correctly, that actually happened through their building management system through a service provider, and it was kind of what you mentioned. It was a, you know, kind of soft credentials through a service provider on the building management system, but once they got in, it was that east-west movement to where now they're accessing, you know, very sensitive, you know, customer financial data, credit cards. So that was, I think, a perfect example. And I think the way what we think about it is, you know, when you're shifting to this, when you're connecting legacy OT infrastructure to the internet, the perimeter that you once had, you know, you can't really trust that perimeter anymore. So now you basically have to treat everybody who's on the inside, everybody and every device who's on the inside, so to speak, like they're also on the outside. And really kind of, it's the title of this webinar. It's, hey, trust no one.